free to kick off when you're ready, Nick.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining the call. Very pleased to give everybody a quick update and take some questions. Just to really introduce things, we are in a position now where, as you've seen, 2 weeks ago we announced our top targets in terms of the new anomalies that we've identified post the analysis of our soil sampling program together with the airborne survey results. We are very encouraged by what we have uncovered. As we said before, we've now been able to rank the new targets, and top of the pile is Chiesa West. That we think is a very exciting target for us. It's a 3 by 3 kilometer anomaly within a bigger 10 by 6 kilometer anomaly in terms of the broader Chiesa area. And what is particularly interesting is if you look at the soil sampling ppms, which are relatively high at 100 ppms, surrounded by a wider 50 ppm area in that bigger Chiesa area, together with an EM over Chiesa West. This is clearly a series of layers that provide us with the ability to glean more about this deposit or potential target or existing target that we've now identified. We obviously want to get drilling on this as quickly as possible. Interestingly, if you look at analogies, and a lot of people have sent through emails as to what does this look like in terms of any precedents. The one precedent I can point to, if you look at the early analysis of Kalumbila, which is our nearest neighbor, is those soil sampling data look very similar. So it had scale, it had 100 ppm, and it had an EM anomaly over it. So that's not to say, of course, that we're sitting on the exact same sort of thing, but clearly, very positive indications. I have asked our Chief Operating Officer, Vasily Karelis, to join us, and so he will talk to this a bit more later. So that is very exciting for us. So we are now going to do some, whilst it's still, or as soon as the worst of the wet season is over, we will be doing some further soil sampling with narrower gaps. So if you like, sort of over these, certainly over the top two anomalies, sort of looking east to west, where the gaps are currently 1 kilometer, and north-south, circa 50 meters, we're going to narrow those gaps now to give us more detail around our drilling program over this particular anomaly, to ensure that we drill more accurately, or as accurately as we can, when we get to drilling towards the end of March. So that those gaps will west to east will narrow from about 1 kilometer down to between 100 and 200 meters. So that's the work that we'll kick off as soon as we can, and as I say, will give us more granularity about where exactly we're going to deploy the rigs. Because even in a 3 by 3 kilometer area, it is still quite a big area, and we need to ensure that we spend your money wisely in terms of drilling out Chiesa West, and we'll obviously be reporting back on that. So I am and the team are tremendously excited by what we have. We think this is really one of the most interesting undiscovered, if you like, or untargeted anomalies. We know that our predecessors, when they've looked at this at the Zamsort profile, have not really looked at the center of this property that we have, and interestingly, it has shot up to the number 1 target by far, and that is very exciting. So that is the very near term in terms of our next stage drilling. We are not finished with Callum. We are going to continue doing a little bit of drilling at Calibre. I'd like to sort of just remind you that Calibre resource, which we're working on, which should be out imminently, was really designed to set out the resource that we have for the small scale demonstration plant that we have. So that just to put Calibre in perspective, and versus say Chiesa West or Lumbeta or even Fuji, these are in size wise multiples of what Calibre is, we believe. So that is very good. So we will be coming back to you on the MRE, the mineral resource estimate for Calibre shortly. In terms of the commercial scale demonstration plant, we have been delayed a little bit by the rains and the state of the roads in the area. We're procuring, as we speak, acid, and we're procuring fuel and gas and other supplies. So we will be running this very shortly with the stockpiles, and as soon as I have anything to report, I will. I'm as frustrated as you are that we haven't kicked off production yet, but such is the challenges of operating in a very remote area with difficult logistical issues that are at hand. But I am confident that we will have those key supplies at the site over the next few days. So watch this space. We'll report back on that. In terms of our recent placing, I'm really pleased to have raised a significant amount of money. I think it exceeded our expectations. We were approached over the weekend by two family offices, one a Swedish group and one based in the Middle East. And together they really did the lion's share of this raise without any sort of administration fee, which would have cost us at least 5%. So a saving almost overnight of north of £100,000, pretty much at spot. And this really now gives us a clear run to get going with the drilling program, particularly, as I say, at Chiesa West and Lumbeta, and a little bit at Calibre. I might add there was a report, an interview I gave where they indicated that we wouldn't need any sort of cash until 2020. What I in fact said was that we were good, to around about the back end of this year. So that was a misreporting. I would say that we are also working actively on our portfolio and non-core asset sales. You saw we announced the sale of Andiamo, which brings in a further $250,000 on Monday. And we are also working on selling both Sturek in Slovakia and Casa in the DRC. Interestingly, with the stronger gold price environment that we're seeing, and perhaps also the bigger M&A transactions that happened earlier in the year in the gold space, we are seeing heightened interest in both these assets, and I'm quite encouraged by that. I'm not going to get into any more detail on that, but suffice to say that if we sell one of these assets, we certainly will be good until 2020 in terms of our cash position. So we're working hard on that, and we will obviously try eke out the best possible deal for shareholders. So that is where we are at the moment, and with that, I'd like to open up, take any questions from the callers on the line.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Well, for anyone that does want to ask a question, if you do #1 to unmute your line, then you can go ahead and do that.
Good afternoon, Nick. Joel Deakin, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Hi, Joel.
Hi. Yes, I've got a few different questions. The first one would be, I think quite a few shareholders were surprised by the raise, and can you just explain to shareholders who don't possibly understand why being diluted at the ARC level would be better than rushing a JV deal at this stage?
Sure. you want to raise your other question?
Sure. Okay. Next would be the RNS on the fourth, where with the significant new targets, continue to assess the data as it becomes available and look forward to reporting further on this shortly. Can you expand on what type of data you're looking to share? Next question would be on ZACO. Are you able to discuss who the other partners are, and most specifically, does our Zamsort partner also have a stake in ZACO, thereby meaning that together that would be an over 50% stake? Following on from that would be when you'd be in a position to discuss what the kind of goals or targets with ZACO would be. The final question would be that I believe the structure of ARC doesn't require TR1s at 3% currently, and I believe that there was a vote to have that changed at the AGM. And if that statement is correct, when is that scheduled to happen? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joel. Look, those are all very good questions, and just conscious of time, so I'll rattle through them as quickly as I can. Look, to your first question, equity raise versus a JV partner. Of course, we could sell out early and cheaply to a JV partner. That is not our intention. What we really want to do is, develop the targets that we have, particularly the sort of number 1 and number 2 targets, as much as we can using our own shareholders' funds, and ideally bring in a JV partner with the other anomalies. For instance, Fiji, which is the number 3 target and part of ZACO. And I'll come back to that in a second. But I think we need to be very careful about the allure of bringing in a major for $5-10 million US on an earner, and that inevitably will result us being diluted down to sort of or the major taking an 80-90% stake. That is inevitably what their agenda is. And in my view, it's way too early to be selling out to a JV partner on that basis. So that is really why we have taken the opportunity of taking this money. As you know, the junior market is unbelievably volatile. It has been, particularly in the last quarter of last year, when the market was broadly shut. And so taking an opportunity like this from sticky shareholders, from loyal shareholders who have been on the register before, stay on the register, aren't sort of trading in and out every day, is a big win for us. So that is the reason why we took the opportunity to take the money and really get on with the job at hand. Look, as this thing develops, and we hopefully, this time next year are reporting a significant JORC resource that Chiesa West or any of the other key targets, maybe then, we do entertain an offer, but it's too early now. So that's, I think, hopefully addresses your first point. A timeline on new targets. Look, most immediately we will be reporting back on the additional soil sampling that we're doing over the certainly Lumbeta and Chiesa West, and then really we'll be getting going on the drilling program, and then we'll be like the second half of last year, we'll be reporting regularly on our drilling program. So lots of news flow from circa late March or whenever we can start drilling, somewhat dependent on when the rain stop. On ZACO, just for everybody's edification, under the Zambian law, the use it or lose it law, the portion of the tenement that you are not actively drilling or have no plans to actually drill in the near term, certainly, within a certain time frame, needs to be relinquished. So we fell under that construct, and by rights, actually, we should have 0% shareholding in that relinquished property. We were fleet-footed, and we have managed to put a deal together that enabled us to come back as the largest shareholder, and with myself as chairman, together with some new shareholders. And one of them, yes, is a local partner in Zambia who is also invested in Zamsort, or not Zamsort, but ARC. So to your question, do we have control of Zaco? Yes, we do. So that's a really good outcome for us, for shareholders, because it does give us another string to our bow. And certainly we could look to, going back to your question about JV partners, we could actually farm in a JV partner into Zaco and see whether there's any interest there. So that would give us sort of almost two bites at the cherry. Lastly, on your question about disclosure, yes, you're right. There is no legal requirement in terms of TR1 because of our domicile in the BVI. But what we've done in terms of the articles is we can force shareholders to identify themselves, and so we will do that if necessary. I don't see any lack of disclosure. All of our key shareholders have disclosed all the relevant holdings to us. I know the point of that question is, after this raise, surely these family offices are sort of have gone over 3% or certainly 1% each. And look, they're held in various different associated bodies with some different shareholding. So that is the reason why, as I understand it, they have not informed us today. But I'm sure as they build their stake, and we have every reason to believe that they are interested in building further stakes in us, that at the right time we will announce those holdings to the market, as we should. So Joel, I hope that's managed to answer your very insightful questions.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Nick. And as an ARC shareholder, just want to thank you again for all your hard work.
Good, pleasure.
Okay, so anyone else who wants to ask a question, it's #1 to unmute your line.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, it's Nick from South Africa. How are you, Nick?
Hi, Nick. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, good. Well done so far. I just want to touch base on the portfolio, specifically Sturek and Casa. What is your ballpark, and you don't have to be specific, I mean, your bottom end range of what you would look at taking for a Sturek and a Casa, specifically around what's happening in the gold market and all these birds that are floating around for assets?
Look, Nick, it's a good question. It's a difficult one to answer because I don't want to, obviously, because these are commercial discussions that are ongoing, I don't really want to get into sort of public negotiations. But look, these assets, are, for Sturek, I would have thought sort of mid-single tier digits, millions, pound millions. And for Casa, I would say low to mid double-digit dollar figures.
So ballpark $3 for Sturek, $10 for Casa. That's the worst case scenario.
Or more, yeah. We'll have to see.
Yeah, let's just put a base on it, just so we can get an idea on what the portfolio is worth.
Right.
And if we had to sell those in, let's say, the next 3 to 6 months, both would carry you through a full drill program to middle of 2020.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah, look, Nick, that's exactly right. So, I mean, that is exactly what we're pursuing. So we want to progress those non-core sales, obviously, as soon as we can, but for value. And, that will obviously provide a huge fillip for us to get going, on potentially other targets as well, but also enable us not to go back to the market for any future raise.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Any further questions? #1 to unmute. Any more questions?
Okay.
Hello, Nick.
Yeah.
Hi, Nick. Terry Rouse here.
Hi, Terry. How are you?
Yes, fine, thank you very much. Couple of things. You said earlier on you'd come back to Fiji, so I'm hoping that you're going to carry on and tell us a bit more about Fiji. And do you know what I referred to when I said the missing land? There's been a couple of discussions about the areas. Zamco's taken over an area. We've still got under Zamsort the other area. But there's another area that... have we just relinquished that, or is that something else that's in the pipeline?
Terry, look, good to hear from you, and thanks for your regular questions. And those are both excellent questions. I'm going to pass that on to Vasily, who is obviously intimately involved with both those issues. Vasily, do you want to comment on Fiji?
Hi, Terry.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. Yeah, Fiji is a target obviously associated with what we call the lower Rhone in the license area. It's not a new anomaly per se. You know, we have a number of anomalies in the lower Rhone that have been identified in the past. There has been some historical drilling at Fiji, but we believe that having had a look at the stuff that's been done in the past, they were all quite shallow drilling, RAB drilling. So we see that potentially with maybe a little bit more depth, we might be able to pick up, something there. So that's really the thinking with Fiji at the moment. The drilling that has happened there has picked up mineralization. Offhand, I can't even remember, the numbers, but there was copper, and I believe there might have been silver as well. But we're trying to follow up on all these targets in a systematic manner, and like Chiesa West and Lambeto with Fiji, we'll have to come in and do some infill geochem and do some mapping on the ground as well, and then follow that up with further drilling.
The reason I ask, because I noticed that Fiji seems to have increased in size quite a bit. But I wondered, is Fiji the missing meterage?
If Fiji has missing meterage?
Is it the missing meterage that wasn't included in the Zamsort and Zaco?
No. See, I think what you're referring to, it might be that there was a small mining license area over part of Fiji. I think, is that what you're referring to?
To be honest with you, I really don't know what I'm referring to, but the numbers didn't add up, and there was something like an 8% area that wasn't accounted for in the number. It might be 147 square kilometres.
You're referring from the 1,000 to the 900 and whatever it is.
Yes.
Okay. So what happened? I'm just tracking back now. When we re-engaged with Zamsort in March last year, there was some ground on the eastern side of the license which they wanted to apply for. But at that time in Zambia, you only allowed a maximum of 1,000 square kilometers. So in order to apply for that ground on the east, they had to drop some of the ground in the license area. And so they dropped a slice of ground in the middle into I guess if you look at that right angled part of the license area on the left-hand side, they dropped some ground there, but they weren't quick enough in time to pick up the ground in the east, and they were only able to pick up some ground. And that's why there's this difference of 1,000 square kilometers versus the 900.
Okay, right, that's answered that one for me.
Yeah, and basically there was a strong nickel anomaly on the eastern side of the license, which they wanted to incorporate in the Zamsort license area. And we managed to pick up part of it, but we weren't able to pick up all of it. Okay,
because nickel was showing up on Fiji as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it's quite a strong nickel showing, and something we need to look at just to make sure that it's nickel, that's real nickel and not nickel associated with geology. So that's one of the things that we'll be looking at this year.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much.
Terry, thank you. Vasily, why don't you speak very briefly just on, because I know a lot of people are interested why we're so excited about Chiesa West. I've touched on it a little bit. Do you want to just, from a geological angle, just go through what you really see there and why, by the way, which has been validated by a third-party geological consultant who is probably more excited if that is possible than we are about what we're sitting on.
Yeah, I think coming back to, historically everyone has looked at what we call the lower Rhone for copper deposits and in the mine series. And in the last sort of 10, 15 years, the thinking has changed that, copper can actually be found in the higher stratigraphy as well. And if you look at Robert Friedland's Comeau discovery in the Congo, that's an example of something that was discovered in an area where historically no one would have looked at. So the center of the Zamsort/Zacho licensed area hasn't really been looked at by anybody because everyone was focused on the lower Rhone, which is on the edge of the license area. When we re-engaged with Zamsort, they too hadn't done any work in the middle of the license area. So the first things we told them was to go in and finish off and complete the soil sampling of the whole license area, which is what they did. And we saw, two substantial anomalies popping up. Obviously, the first being what we call Chiesa West, which is to the west of the Chiesa target, about 8 kilometers to the west of it. And it's sitting in higher stratigraphy. But the significance of this is that we have a coincident EM anomaly with the soil geochem, and the core of the soil geochem is using a 100 ppm quanta as 3 kilometers by about 3 kilometers, and that's quite substantial. And in addition to Chiesa West, which has got the EM anomaly, we've got a structural association with the anomaly at Lumbeta, where we have an anticline. And at the hinge point in that anticline, we've got quite a strong copper showing in the soils. So one thing is to be in the right stratigraphy when looking for these type of deposits. The other is to have a bit of structure. And so that's why these two targets have put up the list, because they both have got things that one would look for when looking for the style of mineralization. It's not to say that the other deposits in the rest of the license area are bad. It's just that these are showing up to be a lot stronger. And those are the ones that we, initially going to follow up on. And at the same time, we will be looking at the others, because they are, sitting in lower Rhone, which historically is where these deposits were found. Some of them have had work on them, while others have had very minimal work on. And it's just a matter of going back and systematically appraising these and working on these targets.
Nick, it's Darren. Question from me. I think you said last call you had 5 majors in the data room, but you also said on the call earlier that it's a bit early to start talking about sort of project partners coming in. So what's the sort of angle on that? Is it to sort of get sort of like additional views on what you're seeing and what's going on, or is it more just to sort of get them excited?
Yeah, look, it's a very valid question. No, I think what we have to look at when we look at the sort of 8, 9 key targets that we have, we are not able to drill out properly even half of those. So that therefore means that we need to see whether we can bring in a partner for some of those other targets. Yes, they may not be the number 1 and number 2 targets, but nevertheless, I think something like Fiji or some of the others, Mbwezu and so on, are extremely interesting targets, in and of themselves. And so what we are trying to do is really lift our skirts a bit, if you like, with the majors and see whether they're interested in coming in on some of those others, because this is a massive property. It's together with Zacho and Zamsort, it's almost 1,000 square kilometers. There is no way that we can drill out those 9 anomalies ourselves. So I think it's sort of, how do we slice this pie without sort of waiting for years and years, and whether we can bring in a partner for some of those other targets.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So because obviously you're one company with a number of targets, but I mean, is it conceivable to think that if some of these targets are big enough and interesting enough that you could almost sort of slice them into sub-companies or something so that there could be stakeholdings in those sub-companies with partners that are interested in the specific assets?
Exactly right.
Mm.
So, we could look at, farming out just Fiji by itself to a partner with us maintaining a minority stake in it, because ultimately that's what the major want. They want to control any sort of drilling that goes on. We could look at potentially spinning out Zaco as an entity with us maintaining a 40-odd% whatever holding in another public company. There are a range of options there.
So it's a bit like an oil and gas company farming out for free carry, and you become a significant shareholder, but you're sort of utilising the money from the project partner. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Excellent. And in terms of Chesney, is that something? Given the raise, are you planning to be sort of drilling that in the coming weeks, or when do you think you can start getting the drills in the ground?
Look, it's weather dependent. So it really depends on the rains. I mean, traditionally the rains sort of abate by sort of late March, early April. So the sooner we can deploy rigs, the better. We're engaging discussions with drillers now. We haven't quite finalised the budgets and the strategy in terms of how we drill and what we drill and how much we spend and so on. That is all being finalised as we speak. But yeah, I mean, as soon as feasible, we want have feet on the ground, drills on the ground, and get going. In the early spring.
Excellent. Okay, that's enough from me. I don't know if there's anyone else that wants to ask a question.
Okay. Do you have any?
Was that?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's probably it.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, look. Thank you, everybody, and thanks for taking the time. Thank you for your support, and do email me direct or any of our team if you have any further questions. But thanks very much.
Thank you.